Before the video, I would like to say that this will probably be more than one part, considering the fact that it's such a broad topic with so much media that I don't think a single video I could get done would cover everything. Now, that said, I think it's time for the community to wake up on just how powerful this version of Godzilla really is, because I've seen a lot of desperate attempts to downplay him from people who stand Final Wars, Legendary, Earth, some others. Now, if we're just talking about visual feats, the big explosions and the buildings destroyed and whatever, Heisei has some of the best stuff, objectively speaking. While Monsterverse Godzilla like blasting into the core of the planet over some period of time, and Final Wars is max power, super duper attack comes like a continent-sized explosion. You have Heisei Godzilla very easily beating up Batra larvae, and the splash damage of their fight breaks through into the Earth's core too. This is while their lasers are hitting each other, none of them are really hitting the ground. Like Godzilla only hits Batra into the ground a few times. They're causing multi-continental damage easily. The entire point of that film even is to show just how powerful the monsters are. This is stated in a guide. So you have things like a global impacting asteroid hit Godzilla in the head, and all it does is wake him up. Them, again, smashing open tectonic plates. Godzilla swimming through the solid mantle of the Earth as if it's water, no problem. Up through Mount Fuji, and then goes on to basically clown the likes of Mothra and Batra, who in their adult forms are stated in a guide to be able to one-shot beings that can find on par with their larva form. They got a one-shot difference onto their prior selves, and Godzilla just comes in, beats them up, and makes them go from eternal enemies into allies with a few attacks. Now that's just crazy. That's all visual too. But let's show you, oh, that's an outlier. In versus King Ghidorah, when he throws King Ghidorah, who weighs 70,000 metric tons, not only does he shake the area you see on screen, which is confirmed that it shakes the entire Japanese archipelago, but he actually splits a mountain in half, which is better shown in the behind the scenes. There are many statements that Heisei Godzilla could destroy Japan. Now, let's get into more of the meat and potatoes. That Heisei Godzilla could destroy the planet and more. His fight with Batra produces multiple multi-continental feet, and if you do the inverse square law, in order to get the actual energy his atomic breath is using in that scene, you actually get up to large planet level results. Now based on that, and the fact Batra was actually tanking those attacks, we could say that Batra larva is easily a large planet too, which would be consistent considering the fact that Batra adult is capable of one-shotting a planet-busting meteor with what I calculate to be dwarf star level energy. It should be noted that these attacks are just stated to be incapable of causing Godzilla any damage. So, barest minimum, the likes of large planets and dwarf stars exploding in Godzilla's face will do absolutely nothing to him, which is further confirmed by his other statement from his fight with Rodan, that their fight would destroy the planet. Destroying the planet from the surface would require at least large planet dwarf star level energy. He is comparable, if not far superior, to any version of Showa Godzilla. This is stated in a ridiculous amount of guidebook. Everything from detailed specifics about how his atomic breath is wider, thicker, more powerful, everything of that sort. So he would upscale off of every Showa feat, which, as I covered in my Showa Ghidorah video, would get him easily planet, star, and other feats of that sort. This is further confirmed by being stated that Showa King Ghidorah is inferior in size and power to Heisei King Ghidorah. Now, since we know that Heisei Ghidorah is bigger, that means that the statement of size is true. So it should mean the statement of power is also true. By what extent depends on the guides. Some imply some relativity, some imply a massive difference in strength. 100 meter Heisei easily scales to this. He fights King Ghidorah, and with his nuclear pulse he rocks his shit. And with a blue spiral beam, he literally deletes his head. We have the likes of solar system level beings, things that would laugh in black holes and supernovas, getting one shot by the likes of Heisei Godzilla in his first 100-meter form. In fact, you can even argue earlier versions like 1984 and 1989 are stronger, with statements of Biollante being the strongest foe Godzilla has ever faced. But that version of Heisei is lacking in feats to support that claim, so I won't be using that for this analysis. However, it should be noted that it's possible that Biolante is the same one who donated her cells to create Space Godzilla with the infamous black hole feat. So it's very well possible that they are solar system at that point, which if that's true, then there are multiple statements that 100 meter Heisei is 200 times more powerful than 80 meter Heisei. Now let's get into the power creep. So as I've just covered, Heisei Godzilla can be 200 times more powerful than any version of the Showa era. Then, he gets even stronger against Mothra and Batra, who are confirmed to be as strong as King Ghidorah, or even more. Then they get that one-shot gap, and then Godzilla returns and beats them up. So now he could easily probably one-shot King Ghidorah with a basic attack. Mechagodzilla is built, and using the plasma grenade, which is an improved version of the fire mirror, he can return Godzilla's own atomic breath back at him with thousands of times the amplified force. It's stated the fire mirror can do so with 10,000 times, and that the plasma grenade is an improvement, so it's at least 10,000 times that solar system level attack potency, and he's relatively fine. In fact, that would be 10,000 for every shot Godzilla fires, and he fires 5 shots. This then strikes him and pulls him over, but he's fine. And then we see Mechagodzilla's other weapons actually manage to do more damage to Godzilla, actually piercing into his flesh. This means that Mechagodzilla is 10,000 times more powerful than the likes of Batra and King Ghidorah. This is important because later on, Godzilla shows the ability to actually beam crush Mechagodzilla to a standstill and just break through his defenses with his raw strength, with his physical attack. Then, Mechagodzilla is upgraded into Super Mechagodzilla, and it's stated that every ability he has is upgraded by 2. So, that would mean that the plasma grenade is now 20,000 times. And once again, Heisei fires 5 atomic breath before the plasma grenade is fired. These doubly powerful weapons strike Godzilla, and while they do damage, he's able to fighting for a prolonged period of time, before eventually the plasma grenade brings him down, in combination with his second brain being destroyed and thus leaving him paralyzed. Even after that, it takes a prolonged assault from Mechagodzilla to get Godzilla to stop moving. He's not dead, but he is paralyzed and in a state where he cannot fight back at the moment. But considering the fact it would need a 100,000 time difference in power to bring him down, that is absurd. Then he gets his fusion with Rodan, which being stated a nuclear fusion. I did the calculations for that multiplier, and that would be at least a 76,000 times increase, if not 461,000 times. Now, that may seem a bit outrageous at first, but consider that it's also stated that the red spiral ray far surpasses the plasma grenade and is the strongest ray ever shown in history. That would include Super Mechagodzilla's plasma grenade, so it's stronger than 100,000 times his prior base cell. This should easily breach Heisei into multi-solar system, but even if you don't want to accept that, bare as the minimum, it's stated to be twice as powerful. So bare as the minimum 2 times, but that seems egregiously lowball and inconsistent, considering the mere presence of it was able to melt through the diamond armor that could tank the atomic breath and redirect it thousands of times over. For Space Godzilla and Destroya, it gets even more powerful. I could get more into that in a sequel video. Now as for speed, many try to say that Heisei is the slowest Godzilla because of his often lumbering showings, but there are actually a few times where he shows quite an interesting bit of movement speed. It's stated in the guidebooks he can walk or run up to 100 kilometers per hour, and we actually see 2 instances. One where he's fighting Batra in the ocean, and based on the pixels of how far he moved in a span of time, he would have moved roughly about 300 miles per hour at the bottom of the ocean at that. And the second is when he's fighting Rodan, and while Rodan is easily outpacing him, Godzilla is actually shown to be fairly competent in speed. Rodan's official Mach 3 speed would get Godzilla to about 680 miles per hour. Not bad, but not super impressive either. He can easily tag jets and monsters that are supersonic, and he could easily tag them in their flight. But these monsters scale to their Showa cell, so they should scale to feats such as Gigan and Ghidorah traveling across nebulas and galaxies, and Space Godzilla is by far the fastest enemy up to that point. Through the comparison, it says that Gigan reaches a quote-unquote Mach 400, whereas Space Godzilla is actually faster than light. If you do that calculation, it would mean Space Godzilla is hundreds of thousands of times faster than Gigan is. Stack that onto that billions of times speed of light speed. This is important because his crystals are faster than his own flight speed. And then we later see Godzilla is able to tag them with his atomic breath. Based on, again, the pixel measurements, we see that Godzilla's atomic breath is about 5 to 7 times faster than the crystals. One might try to argue that the crystals would be slower in an atmosphere, but Space Godzilla's complete control of gravity would mean that that doesn't really apply, and even when shown going into the atmosphere, they are blurs of light when they strike Birth Island. And these objects are massive, easily as big as Godzilla himself, so something that big blurring like that would mean it's traveling at an incredible speed. The people in Mogera are also able to react to Space Godzilla's attack, so some people try to use that to downplay their speed, but seeing how Space Godzilla uses a blatant EMP in that fight, and it's slower than the Corona Beam, light speed stuff in the Heisei era is just objective. Godzilla's own atomic breath could be argued to be light speed too, considering it bounces off super strong mirrors, it reflects with prisms that are strong enough, and it is pure radiation. So you could argue that this means that's an easily light speed feat, or you could use my really high MFTL plus level scaling for his combat and reaction speed. Now, if you'd hate statements, even just not feats, as I've covered, multi-continental stuff is tossed around very easily, but as shown, you could easily use stated multipliers and shown feats to get Heisei Godzilla easily into planet level, if not way higher than that. We could easily say he is by far the strongest on-screen version of Godzilla that we've seen up to this point, excluding possibly, unless Toho confirms this, the Godzilla in the Gigan Rex short film released during Godzilla Day. If that is in fact a grown Godzilla Jr., he would be more powerful than Heisei Godzilla. I could give even more in-depth analysis, breaking down every feat, but that would take an absurd amount of time, so this part 1 will have to do for now. I could even include hacks, crossovers, other variants of Heisei Godzilla, like the mangas, games, etc. But for now, everybody, I think you see why I may have him slap the shit out of the likes of Legendary, Final Wars, and others. Look forward to this video. It's part 2, and more content in the future. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Subscribe, like all that nonsense. Until then.